So what's up, guys? This is episode 13 of Moneyball Cards. Welcome back and to Moneyball Cards, and welcome back to myself. I might sound a little sick, and Ryan held it down this past week, and I really appreciate that. But for this episode, we're going to be talking about the NBA and prospecting. I do a lot of prospecting. I know the card climate right now. People say prospecting is dead. I don't personally believe that. Prospecting has been going on for decades and decades and decades. It's definitely not dead, and I don't think it'll ever die. It's just you have to look at it a little bit differently. But before we get into prospecting in the NBA, Ryan, what did you pick up this week?
Yeah, so my big pickup is in those two boxes right there. So you guys don't know my other channel, Breakout Cards. I have a whole series on fake cards and spotting fakes. Well, the printed edition of my book just came out and super happy to get this done. This thing took forever. But yeah, spotting fakes is my pickup for this week based around that. And speaking of prospecting, I know we're going to do a baseball episode right after this, but it's been around at least, and earliest I know is 1984 with Don Mattingly. People were rushing to buy his first card as a prospect because they think he was going to be the next like Yankees great. And funny fact, that card was heavily forged as well.
Nice. So yeah, Ryan's an author, data analyst, YouTuber, professional traveler,
I wouldn't say professional traveler yet. I'm going on spirit flights, man.
food
Those,
critic.
those $60 spirit flights that hurt your back after.
Well, my card is not something that I picked up, but I wanted to show off my favorite product from Panini. And it's a card that the type of card doesn't get much love in the hobby, but I've always thought they're very cool. And it's this metal stainless steels, impeccable, from Panini. This is numbered out of 99. I have a Cleveland every time they make a Cleveland version, which they started in 2017. This is the first one with LeBron James. I've just loved it because it looks like it's a painting, like with the back, and it's metal. You don't see many metal cards out there, but I guess the people don't value it as high because it's metal, which
Yeah, that happens a lot
yeah.
with the printing plates. For some reason, the hobby, everyone like despises. I wouldn't say everyone. There's people that collect printing plates. I have some printing plates, but there's a lot of people that don't look at it as like a true one of one on those, or they just don't like it because the metal design. I don't know. Everyone has their own differences on what they collect.
Yeah, I don't like the printing plates because of the image is kind of like it just looks funny
Well,
uh
it's reverse.
on the front, and then you have like a different color. Right. I've never
I like those,
really
man. Those are
wanted
cool.
to collect them or anything. But if I saw one for a decent price, I would call it. It says 101, so it's got to be a 101. So, but yeah, but NBA prospecting, I see people talking about NBA players all the time. Over the past few years, I have people text me like stat lines, and I know everyone likes to look at box scores. While we're on a date with your significant other or out with your friends, you're always just sitting there, just checking the box scores of some players that you're interested in, some younger guys, and you just want to see how they do. And I have people text me stat lines. Hey, this guy got 30 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists. Check it out. And when I check it out, there's certain things that I like to look for on just a regular box score. So I'm not going into advanced stats or anything like that. Just something you would see on a regular box score that make me think whether the prospect's performance was legitimate or not. So the very first thing I look at when someone has a stat line that looks really good is did they win the game? Because some people show me, hey, this guy he got a triple double, he did really well, but they lost by 20 points. And the hobby has shown they value winners over guys who put up just meaningless stats all the time. Big example is Zach LaVine. He's for the Bulls and Timberwolves. He's always just put up just meaningless stats, and the hobby hasn't really ever favored his cards much. And I'm not sure if that happens in the baseball world. Does in
No,
baseball do
so
they
yeah,
value winning?
so it's funny with baseball is the player that gets associated with wins is a pitcher. But since baseball is such a team sport and there's multiple outcomes, a lot of people on the data side of things don't really credit wins as much as they did in the past. So like in the past, everyone was enamored with it. People voted for a Cy Young award winner just based off of wins. Like the person had a 25 or 30 win season and they also had decent other stats and played for a winning team. People are going to like, oh, this guy's going to win the Cy Young award. However, nowadays people look at a complete profile of a pitcher, breaking down all their stats and put a lot less emphasis on the wins column. And this goes back to pitchers like King Felix Hernandez for Seattle. He was the first player to really break this mold. He didn't have a ton of wins. I think he was only like 10 or 11 wins in one season, and he won the Cy Young Award. But the reason why is everything else on his profile was really, really good. He got a ton of strikeouts. He also had a low whip. And I know it's not an advanced stat by any means, but ERA, a lot of people still look at it versus like Sierra and XFIP. That's another discussion for another day. But people look at those stats, are like, man, King Felix is by far the best pitcher. He should win the Cy Young. It sucks that he plays for Seattle, who was performing horribly at that time, but how can you penalize a pitcher for that? So there's been a whole change of the mind in the last 10 or so years by evaluating pitchers. We don't look at the wins anymore because there's just so many factors. I mean, some teams have better defenses than others. Some pitchers just have a better offensive team. Some nights a team might hit well and you're pitching horrible, you still might get a win. However, there's other days which you're pitching really, really good. You throw a 9-inning game, you give up 1 earned run, and your team is getting shut out, and you get the loss. Other game, you might have given up 4 earned runs, but your team got 8 runs in, and you got the win for that game. So you can't really control the wins to the extent of where people really should be factoring that into card values or not. Sure, the Hall of Fame side of things, people still also look at 300 wins, but now people are looking at a complete stat profile. People are getting smarter on that side of things.
Yeah, in the NBA, it's huge. People like championships. You kind of have to have that championship, and it showed for the first the 2018 class. Luka Doncic came out with the Mavericks, and they were doing pretty well as a team. They were winning games, and then you had Trae Young on the other end who was putting up big stats, but they weren't really winning. And so the hobby favored Luka, and they still kind of do, even though Trae had a big playoff run last year. But Trae is getting a lot more love lately, and another big example is Devin Booker in Phoenix. For the longest time, it just scored. He's just a really great scorer, and people were just waiting to see if he's a winner or not. And he made it to the finals last year, and his stock just took off. So when you're prospecting,
I was gonna say real quick. Do you think some of that could be favored into like one player in basketball has a lot more of an impact than one player in baseball? Because look at the Angels where they have Mike Trout. Sure, they have also Ohtani, and Pujols is way gone aging. So you have pretty much 2 players in that team, but yet they still struggle to make the playoffs. Yet those are 2 that right now, at least top 5 players in baseball. Yet there's other teams that don't have any top 10 players like the Rays. Wander Franco might be a top 10 player one day, obviously way, way too early in his career, but something like that with the Rays, they always, or I wouldn't say always, but large amount of time they do make the playoffs, but they don't have that MVP caliber player.
No, that's definitely it. A guy like LeBron James, he carried the Cavaliers for I don't know how many years with just a bunch of nobodies, and he made it to the finals. And whenever people talk about LeBron James versus Michael Jordan, one of the big arguments is, well, Michael Jordan had a much better team around him, and LeBron could, he could carry just nobodies. And when Michael Jordan had nobodies, he never really did that well. I don't want to bring up a big argument of who the GOAT is or anything like that.
Put who the GOAT is down below in the comment section.
I hate LeBron James, but I do think overall talent is better than Michael Jordan. So I'm just going to put that out there. but looking at box scores, just the average box score that we always look at. I don't know what you guys, the viewers, like to look at. This is just what some people just like to look at the points, rebounds, assists. and that's it. But for me, I have to see other things. Yeah, I need more of the story than just points, rebounds, and assists. And if a guy puts up a big stat line, I look to see if they won. And also, if you scroll all the way over to the right for most box scores, you see plus minus. Plus minus is something to look at, kind of glance at. Obviously, if a team lost, a player's plus minus is going to be low. But I like to see how the plus minus is for that certain player. If they put up a big box score, but their plus minus is minus 17, meaning that the differential was negative 17 points while they were on the floor. They clearly didn't have as big of an impact as they should have. Clearly, I mean, offensively, they did well, but maybe defensively, they're not doing well. But plus minus is more of a team stat. And maybe the other 4 players around them weren't doing as great. So it's just something to glance at. And I also like to look at their shooting. How did they get their 25 to 30 points? Did they get their 25 to 30 points on 25% shooting? More often than not, when you look over at the shooting, you'll see like 8 out of 27 or 8 out of 30. They took a lot of shots to get those points. And I like to see guys who get a lot of points on a low volume of shots. That's the kind of prospect you want to put your money into. So a guy who wins and a guy who's efficient and good on the floor, defensively on both sides. That's a guy who's going to make you money in the future. And that's who I like to look into. So when you hear a stat line of Bol at his practice and it's really big, don't go out there and just buy it, a fear of missing out. I know the hobby used to be like that, but people are getting smarter. Just look for more efficient, and then you're going to end up getting guys who become, winners or Hall of Famers down the line, and you'll be happy you put your money into them.
Now on the defense side of things, I know you mentioned plus minus, which was the differential in points. Is there any other stats to take a look at? On just a regular box score, defensively, I mean, there's steals and blocks. You can kind of glance at that. Turnovers is a big one. If a guy has a ton of assists, go look at their turnovers. If they have 10 assists and 8 turnovers, maybe they're not as good of a passer as the 10 assists makes them out to look. If they have 10 assists and a low turnover, it's called assist to turnover ratio. Is something to kind of look at. They don't put the assist turnover ratio out there for you, but you can kind of make it up yourselves. But the overall point of this is don't just look at points, rebounds, assists, and then that's the story, because that's what a lot of people send me. Hey, check out this guy. He had this amount of points and rebounds and assists. Maybe you should check out his cards and go buy them. And then I see the other parts of the story, and it doesn't quite add up, and I don't go buy that guy. But if the other things check out, maybe it is someone to look into in the future. So I wanted to talk about the recent prospect, Josh Giddey, becoming the youngest player to ever record a triple-double in his performance. So he lost the game, but you'll see here he scored 17 points, 13 rebounds, 14 assists on pretty good shooting. And if you scroll over to his plus minus, you'll see it was 6. So he had a positive impact in the loss. So I would say this is a good box score, and Josh Giddey is definitely someone to look out for. All right, guys. So all the graphs that you saw in this video, they came from Market Movers. There's going to be a link in the description if you want to check Market Movers out. And if you have an opinion on LeBron James and Michael Jordan, put your opinion down in the comments, and maybe we'll do a deep dive in the future on analytically who the GOAT is, not subjectively. But hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll catch you on the next episode of Moneyball Cards.